We don't realize how often we ask for love, and then quietly we try to control the terms under which love can arrive. Now, it's not because we're manipulative, I think, and like usually, I don't think it's because we're broken, but because love, like the real unscripted, vulnerable kind of love, it tends to threaten everything that we built to feel safe. And the tragedy is that so many people spend their entire lives trying to earn the very thing that would flow freely if they could actually let it go. And when that love doesn't land, they tend to double down on the only strategy that they've ever learned to trust, and that's control. Control that's disguised as standards, control that's masked as emotional intelligence, control that's presented as clarity or boundaries or even goals. And it sounds like this. It might say, I just have high expectations, or I'm just protecting my peace, or I'm not going to lower my standards. But beneath all this is often something that's far more fragile. It says something like, I'm terrified to let love in unless I know it won't undo me. So we become masters of pre-approval. Can this person meet my emotional criteria? Do they speak my language? Do they know how to hold me or affirm me? Or do they know how to regulate me or challenge me or uplift me or soften me or stabilize me and never ever trigger me? And so love becomes this checklist. It becomes a system, a controlled ecosystem that we think will finally protect us, especially from the pain that we're afraid of. But here's the cruel irony in all this. The more you try to control love, the less love can actually breathe. See, love is not a system. It's not a contract. It's not a fixed state. It's a risk. And we've grown to so terrified of this risk. And we've been conditioned by pain and abandonment and inconsistency and rejection to believe that love must prove itself before we can open up. But love doesn't prove itself in advance. Love actually proves itself in the process, in the rupture and the repair and in the discomfort and in the deepening aspects of it. It's in the exposure and return. The people who find real connection are not the ones who've figured out how to control it. They're the ones who have stopped trying to or needing to control it. And it starts with this. It starts with asking yourself, what conditions have I silently placed on how love is allowed to find me? That's the part that we rarely talk about. See, we discuss red flags, we discuss healthy boundaries, we talk about communication styles, and I mean, all of that matters desperately so. But few of us take the time to look at the internal contracts that we've made without realizing it. Contracts that say things like, I can only be loved when I'm strong, or I'll be desirable as long as I don't need too much, or I'm only worth connection if I'm emotionally composed, or I'll open up, but only when I feel like I'm 100% safe. See, these are not boundaries. These are survival codes. They're born from places where we felt too exposed or too rejected or too alone. And they protected us once, but now they prevent us from actually being met. Because love, it doesn't always come in predictable forms. It often arrives in clumsy and imperfect gestures. It asks us to receive before we fully trust, or to stay when our body's screaming to run, to tell the truth, for example, when silence would keep us safer. And if we're not careful, we'll reject love simply because it didn't match the version that we rehearsed for ourselves. See, we don't always control love out of malice. We control it because vulnerability feels like death to our nervous system. See, being known is threatening. Being needed is destabilizing. And being loved without a mask feels unlearned. And so we retreat into the familiar overfunctioning or hyper independence, the performative self assurance, and all the beautiful language that we use to describe disconnection as empowerment. But nothing empowers like truth does. And truth is like the truth is, many of us were rehearsing this sense of autonomy as a shield, not because we don't want connection, but because we're terrified we'll be abandoned once it sees who we really are. And so we try to stay a few steps ahead, right? We drop hints instead of asking for what we really need. We test loyalty instead of offering trust. We perform capacity instead of admitting pain. And we wear wellness like armor, hoping someone will love the warrior and not see the wound. But love, like real love, does not fall in love with your mask. It falls in love with your messiness, not your curated grief, not your digestible trauma, not your aesthetically filtered self-awareness, but the raw, the honest, the trembling parts of you that say things like, I don't know if I'm doing this right, but I want to try anyway, right? I want to try anyway with you, like now, in this moment. See, that's when the doors open to connection. And there's a difference between standards that honor your worth and conditions that protect your fear. See, the former would say things like, I know what I need, and I'm not afraid to ask for it. Whereas the latter one would whisper something like, I'll only let you close if you don't make me feel unsafe or exposed or uncertain. See, one is rooted in wholeness, and the other one is rooted in your woundedness. But because we've confused safety with comfort, we've started to believe that anything that stirs our nervous system is a threat. And so we set conditions that make love feel possible, but never actually real. We say we want honesty, but only if it confirms what we already want to believe, right? And we say that we want intimacy, but only if we never feel too seen. We say we want commitment, but only if the other person never withdraws or falters or struggles or God forbid, changes. And beneath all of this is the question that we rarely get around to asking, and that is, do I actually want love? Or do I want a version of love that I can control? Control is subtle. It's not just about domination, it's about emotional management. Trying to manage what another person sees, trying to manage how you're interpreted, or trying to manage the pacing of your own vulnerability. So we think if we can stay ahead of the chaos, if we can anticipate every rupture, then possibly we can avoid being hurt. But that's not how real love works. Real love asks for surrender. It invites you into the territory where you cannot control the outcome. You can only control your presence. And for many of us, that's where panic lives, because we've confused love with security. We've confused love with certainty and with predictability. But love, it doesn't eliminate your fear. It actually offers a place to bring your fear. It doesn't guarantee that you'll never be hurt. Instead, it simply promises not to run when the wound appears. But in order to experience that kind of love, well, you have to show up as as someone who can be seen. And that requires removing all those conditions. See, there's a kind of grief that comes with releasing control. See, grieving the idea that you can love and never be hurt, grieving the illusion that if you just did everything right, then you'd be safe, grieving the belief that if you're finally healed enough, you could stop risking, right? But love does not wait until you're invulnerable. Love, it asks to meet you in your vulnerability, to say, this is me, and I'm scared, but I am still here. Because love isn't proof of your worth. Love is actually an invitation to connect. And connection doesn't happen at the intersection of perfection and performance. It actually happens in this awkward, sacred, trembling space of being known. That's where intimacy lives. That's where real safety is born. Not from control, but from presence. And this is why so many people walk around disillusioned with love. It's not because love doesn't exist, but because their strategy for love is based on protection and not presence. See, they want to be loved without needing anyone, and they want to be accepted. They want to be accepted without ever being exposed. They want to be held, but never really to be touched. And so they build castles of competence, walls of wisdom, and fortresses of healed energy that no one is allowed to challenge. But healing doesn't mean being untouchable. Healing means being reachable. It means that you're no longer performing to stay safe. It means instead that you're willing to let someone into the parts of you that still shake. It means you've stopped editing your truth in hopes of staying desirable. Because love doesn't arrive when you're finally impressive. It actually arrives when you're finally real. And at the heart of all this is one painful truth. And that is, we're not actually afraid of not being loved. We're actually afraid, I believe, of being loved and then losing it. And that fear, it makes us believe that we have to earn love or manage it or maintain it or control it or actually deserve it. And so we turn love into this performance review, and we monitor our behavior. We look after our tone, our emotional expression. We curate our availability, and we rehearse our transparency. And we keep people close, but never too close, because proximity makes the loss feel even riskier. See, the more they see, the more they can leave. And if they leave, the parts that they saw must be why they left. And so we make connection conditional. I'll let you in if you never pull away. Or I'll share my truth if you promise to stay. Or I'll love you if you love me first. And suddenly love becomes this contract or a negotiation, not an actual offering, not a gift, but a bargain that we hope is safe enough to survive. The painful irony is this: everything that we do to make love safer is actually making love smaller. See, when you avoid depth to avoid rejection, you also avoid the kind of intimacy that can actually hold you. And when you hide your flaws to stay desirable, you're also hiding the parts of you that most need that expression of love. And when you control the terms of the connection, you're never actually experiencing what it's like to be fully received. Because connection, it only becomes healing when when it meets the parts of us that actually feel unlovable. But if you're only willing to be loved in the parts of you that already feel acceptable, then you're not really being loved. Your mask is being loved. And no matter how many affirmations or moments of closeness you have, there will always be this part of you that silently is whispering, if they knew the whole story, then they would surely leave. And you see, that's not intimacy. That's anxiety. And the cure is not control. The cure is truth. And truth is terrifying, not because it's dangerous, but because truth exposes the stories that we've told ourselves to stay safe. It challenges these beliefs that we inherited, the roles that we played, and the identities that we've worn to make connection seem like it's possible. And truth asks us to stop posturing. It asks us to stop performing adulthood as if we've mastered connection. Truth asks us to stop pretending independence means that we don't need love, and to stop hiding our needs behind these polished languages and distant logic. Because the truth is, we're scared. I mean, we all are. Even the most emotionally intelligent amongst us. But fear doesn't disqualify you from love. It actually qualifies you for something deeper than the performance-based affection that you've relied on. It makes space, if you will, for the kind of connection that sees you, that sits with you and stays even when your edges and challenges are showing. And that's what makes love healing. Not that it fixes you, but that it actually holds you in your unfixedness. And this is the moment where many people panic, because love without performance means that you're being seen without the control. It means that you're showing up not to earn worth, but instead to embody it. Not to impress someone, but instead to invite them into that space of genuine reality. It means no more leading with competence, and no more disguising pain as wisdom. No more rationing truth in bite-sized pieces so that you can avoid scaring someone off. It means that you're saying, this is me. Here I am, and I'm not going to hide anymore. Golly, that's terrifying, because many people will experience loss in their lives from people leaving. Some will not know what to do with their way. Some people won't know how to deal with your realness. Some will walk away because they were only in love with the mask that you wore. But the ones who stay, the ones who lean in, the ones who are not staying for your performance, they're the ones who are staying for the real version of you. And that's the kind of love that actually changes your experiential existence. There's this deep liberation that comes the moment that you realize that you don't have to be impressive to be loved. And all you have to do is just be honest. But you see, honesty isn't just telling the truth to others. It really starts with you telling the truth to yourself. That's where it starts. Truth about the wounds that you have experienced, truth about the walls you've erected, truth about how much you crave closeness, but you're terrified of touch or emotional, physical, or spiritual connection. See, this kind of honesty is not casual. It's not polished. It's not always articulate. It sounds as simple as, I'm scared that if I open up, I'll be left behind. Or I don't know how to be close without trying to control everything. Or I want to let you in, but I've never learned how to do this. These aren't weaknesses. These are doorways. Because when you speak from truth instead of strategy, you're creating this possibility of connection that isn't built on compliance or on perfection. And you're making room for love to meet you, not the version of you that you thought had to be the competent one, but the one that is actually really you, the messy, authentic, genuine you. This is what many people are missing in their search for love. They're looking in essence for someone who will get it right, someone who speaks all the five love languages fluently, someone who validates perfectly and who reads the cues intuitively and who never triggers the wounds but always offers safety. And they call that love. But that's not love, that's choreographing. See, love is not predictable. Love isn't perfect. Love doesn't check every box. Love actually breaks boxes. Love says, I may not always get it right, but I won't run. And I may not always know what you need, but I'll keep listening. And I may not be able to heal your past, but at least I will honor it while we build something that's real together. And that kind of love doesn't arrive through conditions. It actually arrives through openness, through risk, through mutual commitments. Commitment to being present together, through the courage to stay, even when the mask comes on and things are getting uncomfortable. This is where intimacy is forged, not in harmony, but in rupture and in repair. Not in perfection, but in persistence. Not an absence of fear, but in the refusal to abandon each other because of fear. See, you can't enter that kind of intimacy when you're still trying to control how you're perceived. And you can't experience that kind of healing when you're still managing every move to avoid being too much or not enough for others around you. See, you have to be willing to be seen. Not seen as the evolved one, but seen as the safe one. Not seen as the one who never needs too much, but seen as the one who longs and who aches for and who trembles and hopes, and seen as the one who sometimes even does not know what to do with their own emotions. Seen as the one who still fears being left and yet still chooses to stay open anyway. Because the person who can love from that place and receive in that place, this is the person who has finally stopped making love conditional. There's no love that's worth having that requires you to be someone that you're not. And yet, there's no love that's worth building that doesn't ask you to grow. So here's a paradox. Love should never require your self-betrayal, but it will absolutely require your self-exposure. You can't love safely, but you can love intentionally. You can love with discernment. You can love with boundaries. And the thing is, you cannot love, though, without risk. And you cannot feel connected while you're still protecting yourself from actually being known. See, if you've ever found yourself exhausted by relationships that look good on the outside or on paper, but they in essence feel hollow, if you've ever felt like you're doing everything right, but you still feel profoundly alone, it might be time to ask a more difficult question. And that is, have I been trying to control love instead of receiving it? Because real love is not a reward for perfect performance. It's not the prize that you get for being who others want you to be. It's what's possible when you finally stop bargaining for connection and instead start telling the truth. The truth that you're scared of this whole process. The truth that you long to be held, but you don't know how to ask for it. The truth that your high standards might be disguising deep fear. The truth that you don't want curated closeness. You actually want realness. And realness isn't always clean. It's messy, it's inconvenient, it's disorienting. It doesn't always make sense, and it doesn't always feel safe either. But it does make space for the kind of love that doesn't just feel good, but the kind of love that actually changes you as well. Because you'll know it wasn't your image that wasn't love now. It was actually the real, authentic expression of who you are. The kind of connection that isn't for the faint of heart. It's for the ones who are done with hiding. It's for the ones who are tired of feeling like strangers in their own lives. It's for the ones who are ready to be met, not just mirrored. And if that's you, I want to remind you of this. There is no shame in wanting to feel safe. Okay? There's no shame in learning how to protect yourself when the world doesn't know how to hold you. And protection can become a prison when it keeps love out, though. See, at some point, the wall that you built to stay safe becomes the same wall that keeps you isolated. And the door back to connection, it doesn't open with perfection. It actually opens with you being present. It opens with you committing to honesty, with breath, with the courage to say, I want to be loved, and I'm willing to risk being seen in the process. So let that be your practice. Not earning love and not controlling it, not performing your way towards closeness per se, just just your presence, just your truth, just showing up in your full, clumsy, courageous self. See, love can meet you there, but it's only there if you're there. And if you've spent years hiding or pretending or negotiating and managing, let me tell you, it's okay. You're you're not behind. You're just at the very threshold of a new way of being, a way where connection is no longer conditional, where intimacy is no longer a transaction, where love doesn't have to be chased or controlled, because it's finally being received in the one place that it can actually grow, and that is in the real version of you. I hope you find this. Let me know your questions in the comments. I'd love to engage with you.